Alrighty, YouTube friends, what is going on? We are back with a brand new video. Today we are talking about how to light fight scenes, specifically how to achieve somewhat of a 360 lighting schematic or lighting setup for your fight scenes. And we're taking a look at my recent short film, A Drowning Heart Part 2. Recently, it won at the International Independent Film Awards based in Los Angeles. We won for Best Choreography. So shout out to my action designer and fight coordinator, Jay Kwan, for that. I'll leave a link to his Instagram. You can check out all the cool stuff that Jay is doing. We also won Best Narrative Short. Basically, it's somewhat of a film that we can use to see where the quality of work is. My quality of work, and also how the fight scene went out specifically, right? So let's go ahead and get started. Well, we'll just get straight into it, right? I'll show you the fight scene. Apologize if YouTube is doing some weird compression things, as this was fairly low light for like half of it. So if YouTube does some weird things in the blacks and shadows, I apologize for that. But go ahead and take a look at the fight scene right now.
Had enough?
You haven't won.
Hey, Dylan, you okay?
Okay, let's get started breaking down basically how I lit this. We used essentially four lights, four main lights. This first part you can see just this opening shot here. This is our wide establishing shot. When you're shooting 360, the location is going to matter the most. I was fortunate to have one of my friends who has a martial arts school. I've known him for years, probably for like 20 years or something like that. But he donated his school for us on the weekends to use. And the hard part with this particular setup is majority of martial arts schools, doesn't matter what kind of martial arts it is, they're going to have a wall that mirrors are going to go from one end all the way to the other, right? Doesn't matter what school you're in, you're going to have mirrors there. And so in this situation, we had mirrors from one end to the other. So you have to light around that. And also your camera angles are going to be a little bit, not necessarily different, but they're going to be more challenging because now you have a row of mirrors that you can't show yourself with. I mean, you could, but who wants to see that? Okay, so what we have here, we have Titan tubes. I'm gonna see if this thing actually works. I'm on my Windows PC, so things might look a little bit different, but essentially, if you look back here, we have Titan tube here, Titan tube here, Titan tube here, and then our beautiful Titan tube here, right? So this I'll just keep this short. You guys probably don't care about this, but there's a green exit sign here. So I'm using a tiny tube here to motivate more green ambient here. Otherwise, this would just look dark and that doesn't look really interesting. Tiny tubes here are just in the event where we do shoot this way, which we did. There's at least some hints of highlight back there. Again, otherwise it's just dark, right? We have reflections from the sun hitting the window light hitting the trophies, but why not uplight some things and make it look more interesting? All right. So we used tiny tubes. We also used Forza 500. We had I think we actually had like 3 or 4 of them on the day, but for this scene we just used 2 of them. We also had the light map plus 3 with magic cloth and the full grid with it. I think with the lube as well. And then we had a tiny tube, a floating tiny tube around just so we could use as like an edge light or a rim light, a little hair light for certain like close-up reactions. So if we go and sort of to another point here where I can show you the opposite direction would be here. Let me get a better frame of it. If I just play this out. There we go. All right. So this is where the 360 lighting sets in, right? I was fortunate that we had this row of windows because this is allowing all of our ambient, all of our room tone to come in. Based upon your room tone, that's when you can bring in your lights. You can bring in your key light if you want to bring in an upstage a top light, if you want to bring in a fill light, or if you want to bring in a bounce or whatever it is, right? Whatever floats your boat, whatever style is, right? Your room tone will dictate where you can set up your key, where you can set up all the other fixtures, neg, floppies, all that good stuff. So knowing that we're shooting 360, right? We're shooting this way, and then we're shooting this way, and then we're shooting this way, and then we're shooting, back to this way, right? You're literally shooting 360. So in this setup, my 360 room tone is this big ass row of windows that is letting in all the light. All right. If you don't have this, a lot of gyms, a lot of martial arts schools aren't set up this way, where they don't have windows, where the floor is, where the mat is, where people practice and spar and that kind of stuff. You may just be stuck with a big room that has no windows at all, zero windows, right? So if that's the case, then you need to light from overhead. Originally, I was going to put all of our Titan tubes in the fixtures up here that are the fluorescent overhead lights for the school. But that being said, I knew that also upon doing like location scouts that the window was going to be just too overpowering, that those Titan tubes overhead wouldn't really be doing anything even at like 100%. So we 86 that idea during pre-production and said, you know what, let's just go with our big ass room tone coming in from the windows, and then we'll use our lights on the ground to add texture, to add a backlight edge, to add our key light, right? Things like that. So again, just to reiterate, if you don't have windows to use from, this is just in general, if you can't light from the windows, then you have to light from overhead, right? Otherwise, it's going to be sourcey. You're going to tell where exactly the light's coming from, because there's nothing upstage to upstage light. If you aren't familiar with upstage lighting, basically an upstage light is a light that sits between your subject, whatever, if it's a product or a person, and the background, right? So an upstage light would say you have an aperture nova or something like that, right? That is back over here. That is your upstage lighting, right? Downstage lighting is when it's between the camera and the subject. So an upstage or a downstage light would be your aperture nova or whatever it is here. So it's between, the camera's here, light is here, and then subject is here. That's your downstage light. Yes. So again, if you don't have access to a truss system overhead, or any kind of drape and piping overhead, wall spreaders, widowmakers, things like that, then you're stuck with lighting from the ground, and it is what it is. Okay. One thing I will say is we used a lot of neg. We had 2 8x solids, and wherever I was operating the camera, handheld, and also on the Mobi Pro. Wherever I had 8x neg, essentially, 2 of them behind me to soak up as much light as possible. That's what's giving us our contrast. Otherwise, the shadows would be opened up a lot and we wouldn't be getting the bite that I was looking for. All right. Let's keep playing this and see what we get. So here's a good, yeah, so here's a good situation where we go in for a wide. Boom, right here. So this is mostly just a shitload of haze, which we use a lot of. We use a lot of haze that lifts up the contrast, and it gives you the atmos. It gives you the shape for a lot of what you're filming. And in this situation, I knew since I didn't have overhead lighting, I needed the haze to bring in the atmos, to bring in the texture, and also that gave us opportunity to create, you know, shafts of light when we needed it. Or just to bring up the ambient room tone. And so for here, we had, we didn't have the light map, but I had two 8x negs all behind me. So yeah, 8x neg, 8x neg, just to, again, create the contrast. And then we had one Forza 500 with the barn doors, I think, parked like way up against the wall just to help push the light further in so that at least there's some interest. So that way at least Jay's body has enough edging him out, and then Sophie's face and some of her body has enough on her exposure wise. Let's move on. Again, if you have any, hopefully you don't have like too many questions, but this is just, again, just an example of how to achieve some of the lighting 360 right here. Again, same thing, right? We got the 8x neg, boom. We got the 8x neg, boom. And then we have our light map +3, just giving him enough out, right? Bringing his face just enough, bringing out his eyes just enough. That's pretty much the recipe that we did. 8x neg, two of them all around. Forza 500 to push light coming from the window when you need it. Light map +3 as our key light roaming around. And I think there was maybe one or two shots where I needed like a Titan tube to edge either Jay or Sophie out. So instance here, right? Boom, she flies back. The Forza 500, we had it on the barn doors. We had two of them. So we had one Forza 500 that is giving us this exposure level for the trophies. And then we had another Forza 500 that's giving us this exposure on the wall as like a slash, right? And the haze helps to show off the light in a more organic way. We're going into some mirror action here. This is basically that light mat was behind here. Light mat is here, right? Light mat is here. And we have it like 100% pushing this way, because otherwise Jay would just be in like complete darkness. Like you wouldn't even be able to tell like it's a face, right? We have the full Monty of like the sun coming through. I don't know what the hell. I think this was actually a post effect that I did in Resolve, like a light flare or something like that. Because I was like, that doesn't look natural, but it's fine, you know. It's a movie, right? So light mat just to edge him out, and then we go in for the coverage here. That's where you can start making things look a little bit nice, right? Now you have an opportunity to, since we're shooting on the shadow side or on the dark side, you can use your Forza 500 or your Aperture 600. Let me get rid of this. You can use your light mat or your Amran light or your Intellitech Mega Cloth or your Sky Panel, whatever it is, right? Doesn't matter what the hell it is, really. Being able to bring up the exposure here. I wish I can say that there was some like, you know, amazing lighting schematic. Cause like, no, there really wasn't, you know. The one thing I will say here, right, is if you are in a situation again where you don't have a window, whether it's 2 windows or 3 windows or one big ass row of windows or a wall of windows, if you don't have this, you have to light from overhead. If you light from overhead, that'll allow you to shoot in any direction. For us, this allowed us to shoot, right? This huge ass thing allowed us to shoot in any direction because it was giving us enough room tone where I didn't need to make the room tone myself. And then we just have fixtures like, you know, I'm pretty sure you own something like a Forza 500 or Aperture 600D. You own maybe some light matte type of lights, your Amran lights, your sky panels, or gosh, what else? Any kind of like flex light or 2x1 light, Geminis, Astras, right? I'm pretty sure you own lights like that, so you can easily achieve this Maybe not easily achieve it, but you can achieve this based upon the lights that you have, as long as you have your room tone set. That'll give you your 360 lighting setup. So final thoughts in closing this lighting and breakdown, I guess, is probably two things. One is um, don't be afraid to embrace the silhouettes. There's going to be situations where the only option you have is to probably silhouette your talent. But if it looks ballpark within what you were looking for, as far as your lookbook, your reference frames, if it looks ballpark close to it, then I say, embrace the silhouettes. There were, a few scenes just like this one here where they are in silhouette, but you can still make out the bodies. You can still make out like the edge lights that are hitting their arms and their legs and their faces. And then the second thing is, if you're shooting a fight scene, right? Your talent only has so much energy throughout the day. If you're dicking around too much into your lighting setups, they're gonna get antsy. They're gonna get tired because they're not moving their bodies. Even the best trained stunt performers and martial artists in the world, it's hard for them to just like turn on like a light switch. Some of them can, some of them can't. So, do yourself a favor and have a pre-production plan going into it where you can light 360. And if you can't light 360, find a way where you can use the lights that you're going to bring on set, and let them be as mobile as possible, right? So have the light fixtures that are going to allow you to do that. Have the power options that are going to allow you to do that. So with the Light Map plus 3 that we had, we were running V mounts the whole time. The only things that were plugging in were the Forza 500s because, they're just larger lights. Whereas a light mat, it's easier for us to use V mounts, like 150-watt V mounts, to move the light around. All right, friends, that is it for me. If you like this video, please leave it a thumbs up. I'd appreciate it. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel as always, just so you are notified of new content coming out. And remember, friends, every day you have an opportunity to create your experience and to write and tell your own story. My name is David Lee, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.